being in front of people or being present matters almost as much as actually having the ability to deliver the service. That was a real turning point for me.
That idea really sums up where business is right now. You can build something really great and still struggle to grow simply because people never discover you. At the same time, smaller companies are showing up everywhere because they understand visibility and distribution better. This is the DesignRush Podcast. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. And today I'm sitting down with Deepak Shukla. He's the founder and CEO of the Paul Lemon Group. He's built multiple profitable businesses across SEO, lead generation, and software. Runs ultramarathons and Ironman races, and has delivered several TEDx talks on building business. If you want more conversations like these, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And now, let's meet the man himself. Hey Deepak, it's really good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on the DesignRush Podcast. Deepak, I was going through your story, and I have to say that one of the things that kept coming up is that you're busy building all these businesses all over the place, right? And then in your spare time, you decide to run ultra marathons. Firstly, what? Secondly, which one would you say actually pushes you more?
Yeah, no, great question. So running came first. I think that's important to probably underline that I have always had a love for running since I think I was 15. I had a friend, Tom Perryman. I'm going to send this to you now, Tom, that I was friends with, and he would go out to these runs at a place called Black Park. So I'd go with him, and I always remember saying, hey, do you want to go for a run? It was like 5 or 6 a.m. on Christmas Day. And I thought, oh, do you guys go for a run on Christmas Day? He said, yeah, my family don't believe in Christmas. We think it's a load of nonsense. And then off we went for that. So that kind of cemented into me this like, oh, wow, I felt so avant-garde and cool. It was a bit weird, but for just interesting reasons. Like, oh, what do you do on Christmas Day? I went for a run around Black Park. They're like, what, really? So it always elicits, even now, like 25 years later, that response of, oh my God, you were 15 and you were running around like a park through the mud. So running has always been there. And the businesses, of course, came after. And I think that it doesn't feel as difficult as it sounds because they're both things that I love. And like anything, we always make room in our lives so that where we can, if opportunity allows, for things that we love in our lives. And one, the businesses test the headspace, and of course with marathons, it tests the body. So they're primarily two different energy systems, which is why I struggle, for example, a little bit more with stuff that are hobby pursuits of the mind. I don't do anything outside of work that is intellectual, if you will. I watch dumb movies, I watch silly Instagram and TikTok reels, and I run ultra marathons. So I think that's it's kind of how I manage it and how it keeps me settled.
I would assume then, building a business, it's heavy, having to be intellectual all the time, and your brain is overworking and you're just pounding at your brain matter. And so when you're running and you're doing other things, it's just like
therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
It was therapy as told by my therapist. I was 23 or 24 when I first went in to see a therapist as part of my journey when I had some issues with self-esteem and anxiety, and the therapist that specialized in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we were speaking about positive outlets and what it is that you can use to channel nervous energy when it has bad manifestations. And it was something as simple as, what do you find that does help you, if anything at all? And I find that when I'm really worked up, I find that if I go out without my phone, and I get a sense of relaxation. And Ragni, bless her, she just said, well, Deepak, the answer is deceptively simpler than you think. Just do more of that. And that actually began my journey of transitioning from, I think the longest run I'd done at that time were those Black Park runs, 7 kilometers, to running marathons. And I think that now it's become such a mainstay within my life. And I for anyone who is listening, it's a business over in terms of longevity. is as much a pursuit of the body as well, because otherwise, of course, things can take up your mind. I think you kind of get away with it probably well into your 40s. It takes its toll.
Exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I just want us to just stick with that a little bit more, because I find it interesting that you're touching on anxiety right now, because I think each of us actually, we all have certain levels of anxiety, some more than others, right?
Sure.
And so when you started discovering, hey, this is becoming a bit of a problem right now, I mean, what was happening, at that point in time in your life?
Therapy, I mean, I don't want to bias, but certainly amongst men, I think the drive into therapy often comes from acute pain. So in my context, the what led me into that was just bad relationships, if I'm being honest, like intimate as well as like friendships, as well as family relationships, maybe swearing, saying things that I think were regrettable, and then maybe like punching a door or throwing a chair and stuff that was just not ideal, which led me into therapy. And because I was embarrassed to tell anyone that I was having these problems, that's why I rang the Good Samaritans, which is a charity in the UK. 10 to 15 years later, I'm still a poster boy for them. I go out in their emails and stuff every now and again. They ask me. So, but it was such an amazing thing for business, because often I think that many of the foundational challenges that business owners, in my experience, have are problems of emotion and not problems of the mind. It's the same difference of, Kia, you're paying a PT to tell you the things that you already know. You know how to get in shape. You know how to count your calories. You know what macros are, or even if you don't, you know the fundamentals of it. So I think that half of success is following through on the things that we already know that we should be doing. And therapy was an incredible mechanism to help get me a bit further down the line with that.
So while that is happening, were you busy building your businesses then, or would you say that the therapy first happened and then you found yourself being able to finally get stuck into creating a really good solid foundation and start building your businesses online? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I started therapy when I was 23. I'm 40 now. I know, very good looking for my age. I was just talking to myself. So I started when I was 23, and then I think I call my businesses at that point flights of fancy. I had a lot of businesses that I drove into the ground. I had a recording studio that I then built a second studio, and that I ran literally into the ground because of bad relationship issues. And I think that it really kind of became an acute problem that sought me to finding therapy. And I'd say that I really, so to speak, got more settled with building businesses by the time that I turned 30. Because from 20 to 30, I spent most of my time out of country, pursuing adventure, trying to build stuff along the way, but nothing beyond it being a means to an end. Because so paying basically my bills to travel at the end of the month. So yeah, I therapy and the pursuit of therapy then led to a lot of foundational change within myself. And I see it with business owners right now all the time. I see people make, not that I'm the finished article by any means, but I see people making the same mistakes they were making 10 years ago. And you realize it's not a problem of intellect. The business, ironically, isn't that hard. What's really hard is to be disciplined. And to be disciplined, you need a lot of emotional fortitude. And to build emotional fortitude, well, I use therapy.
So it's almost like your emotional bank has got to be full before the actual bank gets to be full.
Yeah, I think so. You see business owners and that, I see it myself. I used to intellectualize stuff and I used to explain away stuff and have a good reason for stuff that didn't really involve me looking at some of the foundational mistakes that I was making. Examples, bad business partnerships, resting upon one strategy for too long within business, not managing cash flow properly because you don't want to really run the accounts and realize you're not half as profitable as you think you are. All of these variations are problems of emotion, I think, actually, because objectively you understand that cash flow analysis is important. Objectively understand, should you really get into a relationship in business with Richard? You and Richard both do sales. What business value are you going to add that's down the line? And all of So yeah, it's massively helped my career, I think.
I was just going to say that these are actually like your moments that built your character, and it just made sure to mold your business self into the person that you are today. And so this brings me actually to my next question, because in terms of businesses itself, right, there's so much going on right now. One can actually say that the market is so saturated.
Yeah.
And so, when did you then first realize that being easy to find actually mattered more than being well known?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that being easy to find was a realization that I had when I saw my recording studios kind of dissipate, and I realized that I needed to find something new to do. And I thought, well, let me just tutor students, because I'd majored in English literature, and I thought, well, I could probably teach people English because I'm English, and I could teach a language, or I could teach words. And I thought, well, where can I find people quickly? Not that I had any background in terms of teaching qualifications. And I looked on Gumtree, which is a classified ad site in the UK. And I quickly began to understand that, well, hey, there are these recurring types of ads that I keep seeing near the top of the search listings. And then also they seem to be using these same kind of words. So this was back in maybe 2009, 2010. And I thought, well, let me see if I copy some of these similar words. Oh, and these images appear to perform well. When you have a nice smiling person and it isn't a picture of academic textbooks, people are paying for those ads. So if they're paying for those ads, probably they're performing better because there's a free option also. So I kind of then began to pull what I thought was the best from different kind of ads. And I thought, let me just try and spend 10 quid, see what happens. And I started getting leads almost immediately. And I was like, holy moly. So this stuff works. And that led me to eventually creating multiple ad accounts and running, Gumtree accounts, running different listings in different locations, even though you're not supposed to. I'd get banned, and then I was like, right, I've got to try it. How do I create a new account? I was like, oh, just go onto someone else's laptop and try and do that. And say, oh, this works. So I went on this whole world that people, that we're all much more familiar with today. I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time, but that led me, I think, at my high point to earning anything from £7,000 to £10,000 a month. So I was like highly invested, and I was spending about 300 quid a month on ads. And I thought, I didn't think anything of it because I just thought it was normal. I looked back on it and thought, wow, that was pretty cool. And that was when I really realized that, oh, actually being in front of people or being present matters almost as much as actually having the ability to deliver the service. So that was a real turning point for me.
If you look at the landscape right now, I mean, so much has changed in the past few years.
Yeah.
So obviously, discovery itself is now actually harder for businesses. So what would you say yourself are the changes that you noticed that's actually led to that?
I think that, of course, the ability, creation has become democratized. So what I mean by that is anyone can create by themselves at scale now. There's so many platforms, such as the platform we're recording on, Riverside. There's so many you've got video apps, you've got blogging apps, you've got multiple audio creation apps. So I think it's easier than ever for someone to become, I think the old term was prosumer, was it? A producer in combination with a consumer. So I consume content and I produce content. And that means that the ability to create content at scale has proliferated. So it's way noisier than it ever has been. So that obviously increases the difficulty, just because there's more people in the marketplace as the content creation tools matured. And of course, AI is everywhere in creation. And I think the next era is not even having any humans basically doing anything, it all being by your avatar and so forth. So for everyone, it's kind of a crazy time that we're living in, but some fundamentals still remain the same, I think. And I don't know that they'll ever change. Produce great content, produce irreverent content. And if you can figure out at least one distribution mechanism that works for you, that's still enough to kind of see a big success of it. So I do believe in that philosophy that I think Alex Hormozi coined philosophy quite well, which is more, better, new. So if you find something that works, just do 10 times more of it, as opposed to going to a second strategy. And I think all of us, to include myself, forget that lesson at times, which is if you do one thing and it works really damn well, sometimes I need to remind myself, go back to what you were doing on Gumtree. If that process works, do the same thing instead of being like, right, I've got this SEO thing. Now I'm going to try cold email. Then I'm going to try SMS. Then I'm going to try this.
But we
And
all
all
do
of us,
it.
we will do it. We will do it. We will do it. Yeah.
If you were to look at, brands itself, why would you then say that the smaller ones seem to be showing up everywhere while the bigger ones are disappearing? I mean, you were chatting about the democratization of content. So is that one of the big reasons why this is currently happening?
Yeah, I think that there's a development term that I'll bring to the table that a lot of big companies carry, and it's technical debt. When you are big, restructuring isn't that easy. And if current challenge that we have as an example, and we're not a big company or an old company in those terms, we've been around for 10 years. The vast majority of our websites are on WordPress. Now, we have to carry that technical debt with us, because if you have a site that's got a lot of authority, it isn't as easy to just say, you know what, there's all of these new builders that are out that use headless browsers that instantly load, that have optimized CDNs, that have better content creation. Let's just start everything on that. It's not that easy, because you're like, well, how do you? So that's, I think, a huge challenge for a lot of organizations, as then popularized by, I think, some of the major consultancies when they looked at what the AI wave was doing at top corporations, and they said everyone's going to be fired, or they realized that they weren't actually able to implement anything of value because of all of the architecture and debt that carries. Whereas now it's the most scaled version, I think, of gig economy that we live in, because that was going to be the next wave, like one person businesses. And I can't remember which founder, it might have been Peter Thiel, but they're predicting that in the next decade we'll see the first one person $1 billion business, because it's coming. And
It is coming.
It is coming. It is coming.
It is coming.
Yeah. Just recently I saw, is it Get Swan? I saw an interview with this guy. 3 people on track for $30 million ARR, no employees, just 3 people, no ads, no nothing, all bootstrapped from LinkedIn. So it's just, yeah, exactly. So when you're new, you can do, it's that history, it's that technical debt, it's, and that's, I think, the biggest problem, because of the scale of change and the level at which is happening right now. No one can keep up. And which is exciting and scary.
It is exciting and scary. And I mean, it's this constant state of evolvement all the time, where things would take maybe 5-10 years before you see any change happening. And so change is now literally happening every single second of every single day. So there is definitely a difference in the way that the market is operating currently compared to a couple of years ago. Shoo. I felt like you were taking me out on this spaceship moment again, when you were talking to me about this whole one-man business is gonna I hear you. So Deepak, if you're looking at companies like your Amazons and your TikToks, would you say that the distribution is actually now more important than brand power itself?
I think that for the moment maybe it is, but I think that it's going to reverse. I think that distribution is the challenge with distribution is, of course, a noise that comes with it. And I think that's the problem. I mean, I find it overwhelming to go through TikTok and to go through there's just so much. And every second person is a millionaire, or every second person is like the latest and greatest. It's crazy what's out there. So I think that we're going to, I'm just talking about my personal experience, a bit of a form of regression. Like, another problem that I see is that I can't tell what's real anymore online, because the AI has already got good enough. And you see it in the complaints. And I was asking GPT about how can it be policed? And they're like, well, it can't really be policed, because how do you police it? Like, there's the algorithms, AI is designed to mimic humans. The algos are designed to, same thing that people talk about with Claude and content. And I don't know who's writing or what's. So I think that brand power is going to supersede. ironically, other things over time, because brand power is a subset of trust. Like, do I trust that this is, you are who you say you are, and authenticity? But I suppose I could easily just as be wrong. Distribution does of course matter, but the nature of how people can distribute is beginning, I think, to collapse also as well.
Do you then feel that too much attention can actually hurt a business if it's not ready?
I mean, I think so. There's permanency online. Nothing can truly be erased. Things can be buried but not erased, and things that get buried get dug up if there's a reason for them to be dug up. Until then, they just remain buried but not erased. So I'd say that yes, businesses can ultimately struggle if they're not ready and they get promotion. But equally, there's 101 comeback stories, and people, minus a couple of things that people can be forgiven for all sorts, let's say that. And there's lots of people that, are notorious. Andrew Tate is a good example of someone who, is dichotomous. There's people that are all in, and there's people that absolutely hate him. And I think it's difficult to know, has that helped or harmed his distribution? All of these rape allegations he had for a long time, but it put him in major media across the entire globe. I think it did. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I'd say. But in a B2B environment, I would say that, I don't know. I think that in the hands of a creative founder, any advertising can be weaponized. And I would then ultimately defer to Mark Cuban in The Sport of Business, where he talks about that most people, it's when you lack resources that you become resourceful. So I think meaning that, money often makes people stupid, i.e. that there's always intelligent ways to make the best of any situation. So to give you one such example of that, we've had in the past a couple of clients who have 10 weeks into the project said, I don't think this is working. I'm not happy. I'd like a full refund. And we've looked at the deliverables, and it's like 10 weeks into it. We said, we're not prepared to give them a full refund because we think they're taking the piss, frankly. And
yes, I was just going to say,
there's that argument about, you should do it because always keep the customer happy, and bad reviews. And for better or for worse, I said, you know what? Stuff that. If I think someone's trying to rip me off, I'm not going to do that. So then they've left a whole load of bad reviews, and as a consequence, we got really proactive with our own reputation management. And we then now, to this day, have a systematic follow-up process with anyone that we speak to get reviews. So that bad review, or that series of bad reviews from that client, led to such a great change for the business. So I think it also, not that I'm a genius at all, I think I am, but don't we all? I think it really depends upon, how you use the situation.
Well, I mean, do you learn from it, or do you just repeat the same mistake over and over again? And so therein one would then see, who does come out on top, because you would use at these moments as growth points for your business, so that you can move forward. So Deepak, I want to find out from you also, brands like Nike, they've also had to rethink, how people discover products. So obviously distribution, we were chatting about it earlier. So it's becoming harder and harder for global leaders. And so if you were to look at Nike itself, or maybe even some, a business entity that's similar to Nike, what would you have to say to that, just in terms of how they've had to rethink their strategies and what they're currently doing?
What's really interesting is the Lovable's go-to-market strategy that they use. So I don't know if they were the fastest SaaS app of all time to get to 1 billion or whatever it was, but Lovable really focused on taking their founding team and doing influencer marketing internally within their own actual employees and staff. I do know, or I believe, that Nike, like many other sports brands, spend an incredible amount of money on sponsorships. However, I would be curious to see how companies like Nike effectively utilize internal ambassadors who are loyal to the company and say, you know what, here's Kia. Kia is part of the team at Nike. Kia does these amazing podcasts. Why don't we turn Kia into a massive social media influencer by growing her LinkedIn and developing a process for that? So distribution at the moment still is way more about the individual than it is companies. So why not look at the internal influencer approach, especially when you've got the infrastructure to do that because of the size of your business? And just, 1,000 people liking a comment is so easy to do instantly at a place like Nike. And sometimes that's what matters. So don't know how good of an answer that is, but that's my answer. Yeah.
If you were to sort of look ahead, what do you think businesses should be focusing on if they want to keep being found?
God, what a great question. I do think reviews are a big thing. I think that reviews are always going to be important because it's scalable word of mouth effectively. So how can you scale word of mouth or referrals? It comes from people looking at reviews online, because that's something I don't think will really ever go away. I think that that's the first thing. And the second thing would be video-based content. Of course, it's not a surprise. I think that if you're looking at it from a 0 to 1 perspective, when you have 0 videos online, having 10 can make such a difference. And there's still tons of businesses that have 0 video presence. So I'd say that those two things are big: reviews, video, and then from a search-based perspective, as in visibility, I think just continuing to understand that there's, we've seen now how searches just change because of the LLMs. I mean, the last time that I did, like my wife and I, as an example, we don't use Google anymore. I use it, but like 1/10. I'm much like many people, right? And she used to laugh and say, your term was Google it, and that's just gone away. It's like, don't Google it. That just sounds highly inefficient. So with the advent that search is always changing, I'd say that I revert back to kind of the Gumtree thing, though, that if you do have a platform that works really well, there's way more runway on any of those platforms than you ever think. And that was kind of one big observation with that Hormozy More Better New. That was when I decided that rather than having, for example, one Pearl Lemon site, why don't we have 4 for every niche that we go into? And that's really helped us as well. So, we went from managing internally maybe 10, 15 websites, and now we have about 120 websites that will manage lead distribution across. And that was our version of defending the whole thing. What if SEO drops? And I'm like, surely it won't drop across 130 websites. I think I'll be okay. So that's my answer to that. So if you find something that works, there's way more runway than you can imagine there is with that platform. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway. If you've got something that works, just go really, really deep, and you'll be shocked at how much you can do. Yeah.
That's amazing. Deepak, thank you so much for joining us on the DesignRush podcast. So looking forward to seeing what the future holds for you in the next few years or so. Maybe we can touch base again. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Kia.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.